The new Netflix series Shadow and Bone, which lumbers into the world on April 23, draws instant comparisons to the giant upon whose shoulders it stands. One of the streaming network's more anticipated recent releases, it's an adaptation of the Grishaverse, a best-selling young adult fantasy series of novels by Leigh Bardugo based loosely on Tsarist Russia. But inevitably, what most viewers will be reminded of as they watch the 8-episode first season is Game of Thrones. It's unsurprising that the end of Game of Thrones left a void in the fantasy landscape that many networks, including Netflix, have been vying to fill. Thanks to a run of successful original series like The Umbrella Academy and The Witcher, Netflix has increasingly embraced fantasy audiences, showing a willingness to back high-budget series adaptations like The Dark Crystal, Age of Resistance and its popular update of Nickelodeon's fairy fantasy fate, The Winx Saga, which the network recently announced is its most-watched series of 2021 so far. Out of all of these titles, Shadow and Bone feels the most like a would-be Game of Thrones successor. A typical chosen one narrative, the story centers on a teenage orphan named Alina, who works as a mapmaker on the front lines for a perpetually war-torn country called Ravka. In the heat of battle, she discovers unexpectedly that she belongs to the Grisha, a group of humans with supernatural powers. Alina's long-dormant ability allows her to transmit powerful rays of sunlight, making her a vital and unique weapon. In fact, her emergent power reveals her to be a fabled saint known as the Sun Summoner, the only person capable of offering safe passage through the Fold, a pitch-black, monster-filled sea of fog that has split Ravka into two halves. Suddenly, Alina is the key to bringing peace to the nation, so naturally, it puts a giant target on her head. Superficially, Shadow and Bone offers a lot to satisfy former Game of Thrones fans. It's high fantasy, set in a totally different fictional world, like Game of Thrones or The Lord of the Rings. It's got a large and diverse ensemble cast, spread out over the world's fictional topography, from barren battlefields to opulent cities modeled after places like Amsterdam, Vladivostok, and Moscow. It's got high-budget graphics and action sequences. And it's got plenty of sex, with an array of teens flirting and scheming their way across the realm. But beyond the superficial, Shadow and Bone fails to deliver any of the charm and emotional engagement of a Game of Thrones when the show was at its best, or even a Winx Saga, which is objectively terrible but in an enjoyably ridiculous way. Again and again, Shadow and Bone forces unearned story beats and melodrama. Its character building is lackluster, its world building is mostly incoherent, and its script careens from one-liner to one-liner without much substance in between, all while the weak writing torpedoes the efforts of its talented cast.